The best player in the league just got paid, but people are scared off by him in fantasy football because of his quarterback situation. It's not scaring us off. It's time for our fifth best game in Week 17. Welcome to Summer School Club Fantasy's Best Ball podcast, streaming exclusively on YouTube. I am your host, Austin Amandolia. Here with me, as always, is Matt Record. This is, I think, our 12th CRAM session video. We were focusing on a single matchup in Week 17. We are on to the top five. Our fifth ranked game in Week 17 is the Green Bay Packers versus the Minnesota Vikings. Some basic stats and betting lines for this game. The over-under is at 45.5, which ranks 7th out of 16. Green Bay are 2-point favorites in this matchup. These teams have some pretty good playoff matchups in best ball tournaments. The combined weeks 15 and 16 total for these teams is 183.5, which ranks 6th out of all 16 matchups in week 17. The ADP of the first player off the board is the 105 in Justin Jefferson. And this game is indoors in Minnesota, which we love to see. It got a rating of 6.4 out of 10. So another divisional matchup and another Week 17 game between the Packers and the Vikings. Seems to be the thing the NFL wants to do these days. So, Matt, how does this matchup go well for best ball?
So if you know me, you know I love IDP, individual defensive players. But, in these types of leagues, we're only talking offenses. So we're looking at the team defense rankings of both of these teams going into the year. The Packers have, in theory, the 17th best team defense in terms of fantasy purposes. And the Vikings are all the way down at 26th. So what I'm saying is these two teams do not have the best defenses in the world. And we have some fascinating QB play at both positions. So how this game goes, well, the defenses aren't as good as we expect them to be, or they are as good as we expect them to be, which is not good. And then Jordan Love continues his ascent. He's the guy there. Great. He continues to be great. And then whether it's Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, whatever quarterback is playing in this game has figured it out and just, lights up that mediocre Packers defense.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at this. For me, I think that the key thing in how this matchup goes well is on the Minnesota side of the ball and how they manage their quarterback situation. Like you said, whether it's Sam Darnold or whether it's JJ McCarthy, as long as they're able to move the ball, this could be a very fascinating matchup. If for some reason it's neither of those guys, or JJ McCarthy is not who we thought he would be, or Sam Darnold isn't able to make it happen in a Kevin O'Connell offense, then I could see this game getting one-sided. But if they pop, they got Justin Jefferson. They might have TJ Hockenson back by this point, hopefully, if it all goes well. And then they've got Jordan Addison, hopefully still on the field. So you get those three, you get a quarterback that can get them the ball. This matchup could go to the moon. But how could this matchup go poorly?
I mean, yeah, not to take the easy way out with the inverse thing, but boy, oh boy, if the Vikings quarterback play isn't good, it's going to go real badly. Because there is a world where the Packers get up early, which if you go on the Packers side of the stack, great. But the Packers could go up real early. The Vikings could be just terrible. And then there's no real back and forth. And then no one gives you the big week you need to win, in the finals of your championship.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. And I think for me, the way that this matchup goes poorly is if we get first half of the season Jordan Love and not second half of the season Jordan Love from 2023. I think we all Jordan Love just got paid. I like him. I think he's got a lot of upside. I see him maintaining that. But if he doesn't, then this matchup is going to just end up tanking your week 17. And honestly, if Jordan Love is playing like he did in the first half of the season, you may not even make it to the finals. So there's some jeopardy here if Jordan Love doesn't maintain that consistency and continue improving. But he also provides a lot of stacking and correlating opportunities. So Matt, who are your favorite players to stack and correlate in this matchup?
So riddle me this here, Austin. Jordan Love's going off the board as QB 10 right now. So a top 10 guy. Why is the first wide receiver of his going off the board at wide receiver 34? Makes no sense. It
Makes
makes
no
no
sense.
sense to me. Well, it makes a little sense in the sense that we don't know who's going to throw to, right? So I'll just read off some of these names. So Jaden Reed, wide receiver 34, Christian Watson, wide receiver 40, Romeo Dobbs, wide receiver 52, Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver 56. Someone of those is going to be higher than where they're being drafted, assuming even if Jordan Love regresses back to his mean, like average first and second half, he's going to have someone that's a top 25 guy. So I personally love stacking. If I can't get Jordan Love, but sometimes happens, like just give me two of these Green Bay wide receivers and one of them will pop off.
Yeah, and I think this is where taking that portfolio mindset is really important because I've drafted several teams now that have Green Bay and Minnesota involved, and I've done it differently every time so that I get a little different mix of those receivers. And I think that's a very important approach to take to this. If you're drafting this team, if you're drafting only once and you're drafting this team only once, then yeah, you should pick your players that you think have the most upside. I maybe wouldn't draft Green Bay too much because there's a lot of variance, a lot of volatility here. But if you're drafting multiple lineups, this is a great opportunity to just mix in different players. But I'll sprinkle in some guys on the Minnesota side. First off, I freaking love drafting this matchup where I get a couple of guys over there in Green Bay and then bring it back with a former Packer and Aaron Jones on the Minnesota Vikings side. He's going off the board at RB19 right now, so it's really easy to get him in this matchup. I am a fan of getting TJ Hawkinson only if I'm doing 3 tight end builds because it is kind of nice to get somebody that could be the number 2 pass catcher in that offense later on in the season. And then Luke Musgrave is another player that I'm looking out for in stacks. Basically, like you can't go wrong with any of the pass catchers, I think, in either of these matchups, particularly on the Green Bay side. But there's a lot of value to be had on this matchup, but we can only name one player each of who the best value is. So, Matt, who is the best value by ADP in your mind in this game?
Yeah, and I mean, you just took him. We just talked about him. I think Aaron Jones, again, at running back 19, he's proven time and time again when people give him the ball, he makes plays. I know there's a little bit of an injury risk there, but you look at this team, no matter who's going to be quarterback for the Vikings, I expect them not to put too much pressure on them, which leads to, at least to begin the year, right, which leads to plenty of opportunities for Aaron Jones to get the ball. He catches the ball really well, too. The fact that you're getting him at running back 19, this is a guy that could be top 10 very well, very easily. And we're getting him at such a good discount. So I think I have a lot of stocks in Aaron Jones this year.
Yeah, I really like that one. For me, I'm going with a receiver on the Green Bay side and Romeo Dobbs, who is wide receiver 52 by underdog ADP. I really like him because I think he's just he's just being overlooked as a consistent target for Jordan Love. Like everybody's really into Jaden Reed, which I get. Jaden Reed, he's an exciting player. Once you get the ball in his hands, he can do a lot. But I think Romeo Dobbs kind of is more that possession receiver. I think he's going to be a guy that Jordan Love looks to a lot to get first downs, looks to him in the end zone. And he hasn't played a full healthy season yet. So I think we haven't even fully seen his potential yet. I really like where he's going in drafts. It's really easy to get him without paying too much. And I think the upside is there. On the flip side, who is the biggest trap in this matchup? Is there a trap?
Is there a trap is the question. So my initial instinct is no, there's not a trap. But because we have to do this because we're professionals, I'll say Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's going off the board at wide receiver 4, which seems about right. The consensus wide receiver 1 now has wildly erratic QB play, presumably. So we just don't know who's going to be throwing the ball around there. So, you tell me, I rather have AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson? AJ Brown going off the board as wide receiver 6. Like I prefer the stability in theory with the Brown versus the who knows what's Justin Jefferson we get.
Yeah, I think that's fair because of the quarterback situation. There's a lot of volatility on Justin Jefferson's ability to get the ball. For me, the biggest trap is Josh Jacobs. I am not a fan of drafting him at RB12 right now. There are some guys that I would rather wait on, like Aaron Jones. David Montgomery is another guy that's like I can get a round or two later. and feel probably better about. I'm a little worried about Josh Jacobs' age. I'm worried about his usage. Green Bay did draft another running back, so they had some security blankets. Now, it does seem that Marshawn Lloyd might not play a ton this year. Because I did see, I believe he's dealing with some injury stuff. He might kind of have a effective redshirt season. So maybe that doesn't pan out as competition for Josh Jacobs. But I will be paying close attention over the next few weeks as we head into the season to see if Green Bay makes any transactions to get some more running back depth, because I'm worried about the usage. Josh Jacobs has had a lot of carries, a lot of load, so I worry about the injury risk on that side and would rather not pay that much for Josh Jacobs. What is your biggest question mark about these teams?
So I'll give you two. So the Packers, who becomes Jordan Love's guy, right? Like somewhat, in theory, someone's going to become his guy. Maybe it's Luke Musgrave, right? Like maybe he's the consistent guy at the tight end spot. Maybe it's Jaden Reed. Maybe it's Dobbs. Like who is their guy, right? And then on the flip side for the Vikings, when does TJ Hawkinson come back, and what does he look like? Because he tore it up last year in terms of points per game. He was the man. And regardless of who's being quarterback, like everyone likes their safety net there at the tight end spot. So if he can come back and be healthy, he has league winning upside for you at the end of these drafts. If you're drafting him, like you mentioned, in your tight end 3 builds where you have a little bit of time. So all he has to do is come back and crush it for the last 6 weeks of the year for you to get that value. So I'll be very interested to see what he looks like when he comes back and when he comes back.
Yeah, I think similarly, I'm just going to take a look hanging fruit on this one. Like, when does JJ McCarthy play? Does he play at all? I don't think Kevin O'Connell's job is in jeopardy at all. And I think if Sam Darnold is doing fine keeping these things on the rails, and they don't think JJ McCarthy is ready, and they want to, preserve his youth, not get too much scar tissue early on from a rough offensive situation or anything like that, I could see Sam Darnold playing all 17 games. And so that is going to be my biggest question, is just how soon do we see JJ McCarthy? I don't think we're going to know. I think it'll be a topic of discussion all throughout the season. And so I'm probably going to limit the amount that I draft JJ McCarthy. I might draft him a couple of times, but I'm kind of avoiding both quarterbacks because it just feels too uncertain. It really wouldn't surprise me if Sam Darnold played a ton this season. So if you're going after this matchup and drafting a bunch of Green Bay, Minnesota players, there are other teams that you need to be looking out for to get some week 15 and 16 correlation. So in week 15, Green Bay plays the Seattle Seahawks. Green Bay then plays the New Orleans Saints in week 16. Minnesota plays the Chicago Bears in week 15, which I think is actually a really fun matchup. And then they play the Seattle Seahawks in week 16. So if you're playing Green Bay, Minnesota, go ahead, get some of those Seattle Seahawks players, get that week 15 and 16 correlation, so you're giving yourself the maximum upside in all 3 of those playoff weeks for best ball tournaments. That is going to be all for this episode. Before you go, reminder to hit like and subscribe, turn on those notifications. Look out for our next episode where we will be breaking down our 4th favorite matchup. We are getting close. We're hitting close to the end. You'll be done hearing me say the same things every episode very soon. For Matt Record, I'm Austin Amandolia. This has been Summer School, and until next time, remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and best ball makes money. See you next time.